Okay, cabochons are these stones that have no hole drilled. They're rounded over the top and flat on the bottom. So we're going to attempt this with a few different types of wire. We're going to try aluminum, which is the easiest to hammer, and also the most flexible after being hammered. But I think we're also going to try some heavy gauge copper of various colors and see if we can do that. So here's the idea: is after trying many patterns, I came up with this theory, and it's just a theory. You guys are going to get to see in person if it works. That if we start out with a swirl that covers most of the shell, then we can just form the head and the legs just exactly as we need. Nothing too complicated there. And here's where it gets tricky. With this part, we're going to wrap around the head, because it's all about, you know, not just making it look good, but obviously securing it. So wrap around the head, and then underneath the cabochon or this shell, we're going to go do like one of these guys to give it more stability instead of a straight line. So this is, when this goes under here, it's going to look like this coming down his belly, and then when he comes out the other side, we're going to wrap once around the tail. Oh, I forgot, before he goes underneath, we're going to wrap once around the head. So we're securing the head, going down his belly, coming out once around the tail, and then once right here to secure the weakest part of that swirl so he doesn't pop up off of the stone too much, and then ending it. Will that work? We will find out. Let's start with, obviously, this might be aventurine, but it was gifted to me. It's a really nice cabochon. It's pretty decent size. I'd say it's about 1.5 inches long and 1 inch wide. So you could say 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters. No, it's a little more than that. Maybe 3.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. Anyway, let's start with our regular brown. It's antique copper colored, but they call it brown. But it's colored aluminum, so not to be confused. This is not copper. It's colored aluminum and 12 gauge. So this might be a little bit fat, but this is what we've been working with for a few weeks. So let's start with this and see if we can really form it and make it work. To be on the safe side, I'm going to take like a little more than 2 whole feet. Probably not going to use all that, but I tend to always not give myself enough, so that should be hopefully plenty. All right, let's see if this works. We gotta press there we go, okay. So we want the arms and legs and stuff, I don't know if they're called arms, to be flat on the table. And okay, everything seems to line up right. The hammering didn't seem to change the shape too much, which is what we wanted. We wanted it to not change too much. Not everything is exactly where I wanted it to be, but I kind of expected that. I'll press the head flat. So this is a lot of wiggle and figure it out. And that's what I expected too, but it's coming out pretty close to how I was hoping. So now we're gonna cross over the head and lift him up. Well, actually, I'll bring him to the edge of the table. Let's cross over the head here. Oh, this guy's slipping all over the place. But that's what cabochons do. They slip all over the place while you're trying to wrap them. It's just something you got to get used to until you get them anchored. All right, these across the head, and we're gonna come around the bottom now. Let's see. Okay. Now the bottom is, we're gonna have to tighten up these curves so it's really across the bottom. Let's see how we did. It's starting to fit in there like a little glove, so that's good. That's a good sign. I think it's gonna work. I realized as I was making these swirls, I should be making them fatter, and I didn't make them fatter till the very end. Okay, so that's live and learn. Let's see. All right, not bad. Not bad. Now, this guy is supposed to come across the tail. Easier said than done, because now this guy's a lot harder to move, to bend and flex now that he's been hammered, but we're gonna do it. Wow, it's really hard to... Okay. You're using every method: bending, pinching, twisting, using your fingers, using the pliers. You just keep using whatever you think. Now I want to come all the way across the tail because I'm coming back up to the front, or the top rather. Right? So we're pinching it tight right here. There we go. All right, that's good. And the stone is starting to be held. Not totally held, but held better. Now here's the probably going to be the hardest part, and maybe I didn't give myself enough of, what's the word? Enough possibility for stability. You like that? Possibility for stability. But we're going to try to get this guy to curve into that swirl. And I already cut off a bunch because that over 2.5 feet was way too much. I already cut off like a good 9 inches right there that you guys didn't see. So this is, at this point, this whole entire structure is about 1.5 feet. And we're going to cut off a little more now. Be on the conservative side. We'll just cut off that much and see if we can make it work. Maybe a little more. That's still too much. All right. Let's see. So this is a hard part. We want this to curve into there. You got to do little curves at different parts. If you try to curve it all at once from one spot, it'll make a sharp corner and actually make a weak spot that could break. I might need to slide the stone out to really get this in here. So I'm trying to get this through here. We'll see. Now that the stone's out of the way for a minute, it's actually not the hardest thing in the world. Just continues carefully curving it through. It's through. Now to curl it into another little swirl. Okay, swirl is started. Swirl is in a good spot. Hopefully this is working. Let's try to slip the stone back in, see where we are. Stone is having a hard time slipping in. That's a good sign. It means stone should be getting secure. Ugh, stone doesn't want to be in there. Okay. That is kind of working. Right? Ugh, still shaping this like as if we're shaping a sculpture. I don't know if we made the legs too big. I know these sea turtles have giant flipper back legs. I didn't actually look at a picture of one, so that's probably my first mistake. I was just going by memory. But I feel like it definitely looks like a turtle, so that's one good sign. Now this stone is not secure, so, I mean, that stone's gonna pop out. I mean, you could pick it up and shake it around, it's not gonna fall out, but if somebody's wearing it, by the end of the day, if they hug too many people, it's gonna pop out. So, I was hoping to do it all with the one piece, but I was, in the back of my mind, I had a good feeling I was gonna need to thread it with another piece of thin wire. So this is 26 gauge anti-copper, and this will come to the rescue, hopefully bring all of it together, and still it'll look, hopefully not too busy, we'll see. So we're gonna take about, to be on the safe side, we'll take about 2 feet of this. I'm basically just going to do a zigzag pattern, you know, wrapping around, like around like that. Just zigzag back and forth to secure everything around the whole stone. Maybe a little bit in the back with these guys. And that's it. Attempt number 1. If you notice, I'm not really following any specific pattern. I'm just kind of threading it wherever the wire feels like it could go next most easily, which, since it's already held pretty firmly by the structure, this should more than finish it off. But hopefully it'll flow nicely if I just let the wire just keep going wherever it ends up going, not try to overdo it. Sometimes you got to get your fingernail underneath the metal and lift it to get the threading under there, because you made it so tight. That's great, but now you can't get the threading under. But with enough patience and wrestling, you will get it. Don't you worry. Okay, that looks pretty good. Back is secure. I'm just gonna curly cue these two and shove them in somewhere. And attempt number 1 is finished. I learned a lot from this. It's gonna help. That little curly cue is tucked right there, and that little curly cue you can't even see is tucked right there. Now I know I don't have to make this the engineering feat it was in the first one. I'm going to still do the same pattern, but knowing that I can use the thinner gauge to thread it and not have to stick to the one wire rule, it's going to make it a lot easier. I think it'll also make it a lot less bulky. So I'm going to cut off about a foot and a half and try it again. I make kind of an oval swirl to match the oval of the stone. I'm gonna make the swirl a little tighter than the other one to get more swirl for your buck. That's good. Okay, that's it, the new pattern. This part will fold under his belly, and then we'll use the thin wire gauge to thread it all together. Give this some hammering and see if it works. Okay. Push everything into place. So far, so good. Let's bend this guy over the bottom. I was gonna flip it, but I think it's naturally just flowing like that. Like that's just working. Oh wait, that's his leg. I lost his leg right there. That's not good. Okay, I had to fiddle with the leg a little bit to get it back where it needed to be. But I think we're ready now to bend this guy in the back. Maybe we should flip him, yeah. I feel like he's going in that direction. It's kind of a diagonal, that's kind of cool. It looks cool the way it is now, right? It's almost like a grill. You could like cook some burgers on top of there. The stone just fits right in. Kind of, sort of. Yeah, I'm looking much better. All right, I feel like we have success. Let's get our 26 gauge. Get about 3 feet again, and probably won't need that much. No, 2 feet. And we'll thread him up. I'm going to work from the middle of the wire, so I have 2 strands to play with. One will go around one side, one the other side. And then they'll meet, or whatever, tuck-in sharp ends. And I'm finding just to go from one side and then thread it through the part. You need to thread it in the bottom and then come back up to the top. This is going to make a nice pattern, I think. As I keep threading this one side, it's pulling the stone and the swirl closer to this side. So I'm going to start threading this side to give it a counterweight to pull it back the other way so it still winds up in the center the way I wanted. Also occasionally putting them down on the table, pressing everything back the way I want it to be so it doesn't get too far away from the original plan. I'm only 3/4 of the way there, and this stone feels like it's cemented in, like it is not moving. So that's a really good sign. And I really like the design. I feel like the 26 gauge thin wire is not taking away from it at all. You're really just looking at the hammered aluminum. Threading in and of itself is a good skill to practice a lot because it's a little tedious and painstaking, but also it gets irritating at first because the wire doesn't behave like a normal thread, like when you're sewing. Because if it twists just a certain way, it starts to turn into a kink instead of a smooth pull through. And to avoid that, all you really need to do is just reposition the curve as you're pulling it through. And the more you do it, the more you just get an instinct of how to reposition it without even thinking. So if you get frustrated in the beginning, just think about that. And you'll immediately find that it's easier and easier. Also, when it's hard to get a piece of thread, a piece of the tip of your wire under a piece, because it keeps getting stuck on things, sometimes you gotta curve the very tip of it like a little fish hook, and then pulling with your fingernail to make a space. When you thread it under, it comes under and then it hooks up right away so you can grab it. All these little tricks you learn through painstaking struggle when things are not working. You just push through. Before you know it, what you thought was just annoyance and problems turns into a new little skill. Boom. Tucked and gone. I feel like this one really came out pretty cool, pretty fun. You can put a little beads for his legs if you want, thread those in too, but for now I'm feeling really happy with this guy. I am gonna bend his legs a little bit, give him a little bit of a 3D look. Just a little bit curled over. Maybe have his head up a little bit. There we go.